I'm absolutely delighted to have with me Sirpa Pietikainen, who's joining us from Strasbourg on what seems to be a nice day from the window behind her, but compared to Brussels. And anybody who works on sustainable finance should know Sirpa and will know Sirpa, because I think you've been one of the most amazing champions in the European Parliament on these issues. And it'd be interesting to hear your views on the challenge of forward-looking predictions and use of data. But I would love to also take the advantage, Sirpa, to hear a little bit your vision or possible ideas for the next 5 years, because we're in a very difficult political environment where there's a growing, some people call it green lash, some counter-reaction to some of the sustainability debate. And obviously, the planet can't afford that. So it'd be very interesting to hear your views on that as well. Sirpa, thank you very much for being with us on what is an incredibly busy Strasbourg week.
Thank you so much for your kind words, and thank you for the possibility to address you and your audience about this very important topic and angle about the sustainable finance. And while you ask, let me start with the sustainable finance and its agenda for the future. And the best advice, sort of a scenery, what I can give is think it as a finance in general. So it is mirroring all the experience what we have and all the obligations what we have on monetary side of finance. And the reason for that is twofold. First one is that if you think what is more important or more drastic, the fact that someone is stealing 100,000 euros from company accounts and avoiding the taxes at the same time, or the fact that someone is destroying our livable planet by their business. So actually we created whole the financial reporting, accounting, auditing, transparency, the due diligence, the responsibility of boards, and the structure that you know, because we think that the companies and their actions are so important that they are liable towards the general public about what they do. They are liable for the investors, so that the investors really know is the money going to real investments for a profitable company or just for the partying of the leadership and the management of the company. And of course, it is a public interest. We are all interested whether the companies do pay according to the rules, the taxations or not. And in this level, the other consequences that we sort of didn't realize how important they are, because we thought that we'll deal with that with the regulation. So if you follow the laws, environmental legislation and the social legislation, that's okay, that's adequate. And that was adequate in a time when the markets were very closed and they were very small, and you could know your company from tip to toe, what they are doing and who is working there. But now, with this extreme complexity that in many ways is good in international market, it's totally opaque and impossible to follow up for the company itself and for the investors, the great consumers and the greater public, what is actually happening in the whole network on the ecosystem of that business and on the total life cycle of the products. So that is the reason, and this is not going to go anywhere. So this is not greenwashing, this is not the fab, this is not something extra like whipped cream over the ice cream that you can live with or without. This is the core essential demand for all companies in the future. Okay, and that's why the second reason is you need to reflect the financial regulation, because having many different kind of regulations, reporting systems, standards, like the cases at the moment, doesn't help the environment, the social conditions. It creates extra burden for the companies. And because of the opaqueness, once again, it is not helpful for the investors to identify and really differentiate the different companies. And then this reflection, it is the accounting. We should have parallel one report accounting. It should be the responsibility of the CEO and boards in the same principle as they are responsible of the financial activities. It should be audited because what you say needs to be reliable and true. It would need to be included in credit ratings, in MiFID rules, in financial rules altogether. But then, and these are two of the biggest challenges in the next term, and this links to ISSB, the different types of the taxonomies and initiatives. It needs to be harmonized. What we need crucially is reliable data in EU and globally. And like in IFRS, that's why I find ISSB linked to IFRS so important. It needs to be linked and in the longer term harmonized with the financial rule book and charters. And in the long run, also, it needs to be monetarily valued. Then again, what it means is that we need the reliable data. We would need to have the host for that kind of a data centers. It could be European Statistical Authority. We need to have a simplified version of that, sort of a nutritional value tablet where SMEs can easily check that if I have that kind of electricity or cars or use these kind of detergents, it means, and they do not need to call the most complex system what the multinationals are doing quite rightly and actually very well. And we need to have open access to this data. And of course, then the raters, credit raters, will use their own methodologies because it is multifaceted. It's not only climate. We quite often make mistakes looking only at the climate. It is the biodiversity. It's the resource efficiency. It is the avoiding chemicalization, microplastics. It is the new threats. It is the indirect land use and so forth. Water. So we need to balance in complex products like in construction, many elements to find the perfect match. And there, when you refer to the fact, we actually do not know. So we are learning by doing in many cases. And then globally, we would need to solve the issues like the disagreement or different histories between the USA and EU. In EU, we have the double materiality concept. And then in USA, it is the single materiality. And I've proposed that we should be working on third level materiality, sort of a saying, and this is what the Sustainability Board and the ECB is doing already. Okay, if you are not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. And if the climate change is going to cost tenfold the COVID-19 costs after 10 years, no one's business is going to be profitable. So if you are not solving the climate change, the biodiversity and other issues, if you do not have a transition plans, this is, I'm going further than what the ECB is doing or the Stability Board at the moment, then you are part of the problem. You are creating your own destruction. And this could be sort of the link with the between the two systems. And then we basically would need to scan through all the financial regulation to incorporate in MiFIDs, in prospectus, in solvency and so forth, the sustainability aspects and the reporting. We would need to harmonize now a bit confusing and a bit different reporting systems within the taxonomy, due diligence, and so forth. And last but not least, in this side, what we would need to do is the public sector. And this is the Beyond the GDP initiative in the UN. We would need to really look where we put our public money. And as you might know, we are globally using more money to subsidize fossil fuels than we are using our health and social policies. And it's a huge contradiction, a really perversive situation. And so then if you would disclose and open up the budgets in EU semester, for example, and check where the member states are putting their money, what do they get from that, and then account and rate also by credit rating agencies that, okay, in case of Finland, if you lose your forests, your national well-being and welfare, the nowadays GDP cannot be growing. It's diminishing. Okay, then the big issue that I find very important to discuss is about how do you make the pathways for the future, for the uncertain future? And there are some good principles to be used. First of all, is to look what do we know for the long time framework certainty. Okay, the resource consumption is increasing, the biodiversity is decreasing alarming rates, the climate change is increasing, we are using still too much of a hazardous chemicals, and we have unknowns and unknown risks. We are going to have a more and more digitalization, and we are going to have more urban structures. And the most important thing would be to turn to circular economy. So with tenfold resource efficiency, and if you don't remember anything else, remember this. So you need to use longer, use multiple times, or upgrade the use, or then use turn the use as service. For example, it could be easily the mobile phones, and then you could create them on the modular way so that you can upgrade then, like you upgrade the software and the security and the apps already now. So it is doable, but it is a different mindsetting, and this is a huge transition. And in many companies, this means a lot of work between here. It is thinking what we are good at, what we can do on this basis. And then again, it means use more time on thinking than just sort of a grabbing the first idea that comes on your mind or is already in the market. Because the second point is to be there of the sidetracks. And sidetrack is something that is better than what is existing state, but it is not adequate. Because sidetracks loses the potential, it loses the time, and it loses the money. Sidetrack, for example, in Finland is the high boom of a biodiesel, won't solve the issue. Sidetrack was, as you know, such to think that you can tweak the diesel cars to be more effective. Yes, but if you have all the time more and more cars, and you would need to defossil the society, so actually this is not going to solve it. And it's a bit like if you would need to go from Helsinki to Rome, and you just end up by accident on Warsaw, and you say that at least I'm in the right direction, at least I'm in right direction, and I'm not at all so north than I would be in Rovaniemi. So please say compliments to me, not asking the naughty question, how this being in Warsaw instead of taking the direct flight or train to Rome actually does help you. And good examples of this kind of a sidetracks, what we can see at the moment, is, for example, the blue hydrogen, CSS in large scale. We need to defossil. It is this kind of a half-baked slightly better than today. So whatever we do, we should have this kind of a sustainability check. Most of us, at least I don't know how to do it in the different sectors. It's with tenfold resource efficiency. It is totally in closed loop, in quotes, of course, can't defy the physics. It means using only sustainable sourcing. That means the biodiversity, for example, when it comes to wood. It means non-toxic, non-harmful, and no emission. Again, I'm not trying to defy physics, but in the, let's say, up to 90%. And it means compensating the biodiversity loss, because we have this, we need to compensate, we need to upgrade 1/3 of our natural habitats and increase them and you can do it in different ways. I'm happy to talk about this as well. Then what this requires for the companies? It needs ecological competence. And knowing myself, coming from the Helsinki School of Economics, some time ago, we understand very well economics and business administration and accounting, and we know how to deal this. And you couldn't have a board, or you couldn't have a CEO telling, well, you asked whether we are profitable or not, or how much do we earn. Where's our financial director? Could someone tell me, please? I'm not going to in details, but I really know that this is a wonderful product, that we have a wonderful strategy, and it's all going to go fine. But this we still can do in many cases on environmental and social matters. Where do we have the sustainability director? Someone could please help me telling what happens with our CO2 emissions. And then it is not just walking slightly better if the challenge is the marathon. So just don't just be proud and tell that, okay, we are slightly better than yesterday. That the good question is, how are you going to be sustainable by 2050? So there's time, that is true. And the goal, instead of saying I run marathon after 1 month, is to say I run marathon after 3 years. But then again, take the actions. And the actions, and this is the technology uncertainty, is backcasting approach fine to this ecological competence, understanding what is the scale and the type of the challenge, understanding what are the side tracks. And then if you see the long-term goal, the end of the rainbow, at least you can avoid those investments and technologies. Lithium could be one of those, like the blue hydrogen, that are probably going to be lost pretty soon. We already have different kind of battery materials from lignin, from solid state natrium batteries, and so forth. And so if you invest something that is up to date, it's going to be that is going to be old after 5 years. This is a huge technology risk. And so on my advice, it would be to look where the technology is heading and which technologies really are going to be solving the big issues and the big questions, to avoid that kind of a half-baked solutions. Then the second one, and that is a tough one, is the life cycle analysis. And there the first answer is, do not use the materials or the stuff or the workforce. You do not have a clue, and you can't have a clue how sustainable or unsustainable they are. In gradual way, and this is the transition plan, one needs to source only there where we know. If I go to bank and I try to apply for a loan, it is not adequate answer to say that, okay, I don't really know what I'm going to earn after 1 year because here's the elections, but still I would like to get the 1 million loan. Assets, well, not really, because then I'm really seen as a big risk. And so it should be in the future with the environmental matters and this kind of non-holding the capacity to understand the sourcing chains. Just saying, well, I can't control it, I don't have a clue, is the bad answer. Do what you can control, put it in different agreements and audit the process. And then, of course, there are that kind of technology risks that we would just need to understand better. That is a part of the risk. Like solar panels, there's a huge competition. And the question is, whose technology is developing fastest? Are we stuck with something? Okay, we thought that this is the best technology. Are we stuck with some technology that actually is old? And can we change it for the, let's say, from lithium to new types of battery materials? Or can we create our solar panels to be totally in closed loops to reuse the materials and so forth? And still someone could do it better. But then again, I would only say that, well, this is markets. It is in technology advancement and consumer preferences and pricing the same. There's always the risk in the future that someone does something better. And this should be then seen not as a separate burden or a hassle, but as part of the strategy of managing the changes in the environment and competition. Then the second point is to be very alert of the new technologies, and always, if possible, to favor that kind of a technology that is easier to refit. Just as an example, okay, we might think that the wind parks and solar panels covering all the houses is the best solution to produce the energy. What about if we find after 15 years that this is not the case? Then out. We are going to use and build the new infrastructure and reuse the materials, and we could try to make the roofs look nice and to have green roofs there and fix the compensation on the nature of damages of windmills. But what about if we rely in long-term, difficult, hard to set on place technologies like gas pipelines or, for example, nuclear power plants or huge minings? Then it is not only out. Then we are stuck, and this is one part of the all these kind of types. If you bet wrongly, like I think that in these cases it is wrong betting, and one big reason why it is wrong betting is that the tendency is to go for that kind of a modular, upgradable, scalable technologies that are easier to fix and to be changed than these kind of a monstrous big solutions. These Vatican churches that are going to stay there forever. And then I would avoid on betting my money or my company's technology on that kind of a solutions. Well, there are a lot of other points I would like to raise, but I hope that you just take up the reporting and then to other issues in reporting. Reporting is information for you, besides it is information for the outsiders. And it always would need to lead to some consequences. How to do better, how to change, and what to correct. Like it is with financial reporting. It is not just a report no one cares to someone. And then secondly, and I would underline this, it is the transition plan that is third-party audited and followed. So we really would need to see the change, and it should be, as I mentioned, sustainable change, not this kind of a sidetrack that ends on the wall, and then again you are stuck in slightly better, but not in the level where you should be. And this is the point for the politicians and for companies and investors to follow on themselves and on other companies and on competitors and on other parts of the globe. And then again, last but not least, please do lobby politicians. The biggest lobby and the most vocal lobby is saying, no, 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 no. Don't do anything. It is not necessary. We are green enough and our decisions go far beyond what is needed. This is not true. Check the science. And if the science is in contradiction with politicians, believe the science, not the politicians. And then again, the politicians need to get the support and the message for the new technologies for sustainable finance, circular economy, and for the needed change. Thank you for listening.
No, thank you very much indeed, Sirpa, for a very good introduction to this day's conference. There's a few things I take away. One is the point you made at the end. We need to listen to experts again. I feel experts died somewhere before Brexit, and we have to bring them back in, and we have to start and listen to experts again because they have the scientific information. We need to have some faith in them. But I think the other thing that's very interesting, we've seen evolve over the last few years, is that the ESG agenda is becoming not so much a reporting burden, it's becoming part of a corporate strategy, and you need to have it as part of your corporate strategy. And what I took away from your intervention is it's not a short-term strategy. It's not, as you say, your side tracks. You have to stick to a much longer strategy going to 2050. And therefore, even if the investment is a bit higher now, in the medium term, it might be a much better investment to make than going for the quick and easy solution that gives you a good result now, but puts you into a harder position, maybe in 5 or 10 years when you have to kind of switch again. Thank you so much. And I take your point that you've got other things to raise. I will come back to you on that one. I take you up on that offer of maybe having another conversation, Sirpa. Thank you so much and good luck today in Strasbourg.
Thank you and have a very nice day for you and very nice waiting for the Christmas.
Thank you so much.